Hello and welcome to Lost in Sci-Fi and Fantasy. I'm your host Leo, and today we're going to be talking about Blade of the Immortal. This is a bit of a weird one for me, so my history with it is very short, but at the same time very long. I bought it on a whim one day, because I saw it at Walmart, just sitting there, just hanging out, and I thought, you know what? I want to watch more samurai movie, and this one looked about as samurai movie as you could get. You know, has a yelly guy on the cover, a bunch of hash marks, and a nice little catch tag there. It's the 100th film from Takashi Miike, legendary director of 13 Assassins. He will take 1,000 lives to protect one, which is you know a very eye-catching thing. And then I just kind of let it sit there for about 4 years, and I decided, I should probably take this opportunity to actually watch it, for the show. It's not super fantasy, except for one very annoying aspect that I'll get into later. But it's interesting. The basic plot is here. I'll read it from the back of the Blu-ray since I have it here. Manji is a highly skilled samurai becomes cursed with immortality after a legendary battle. Haunted by the brutal murder of his sister, Manji knows that only fighting evil will regain his soul. He promises to protect a woman named Rin and help her avenge her parents, who were killed by a group of master swordsmen led by a ruthless warrior, Anotsu. The mission will change Manji in ways he could never imagine. The 100th film by master director Takashi Miike. Now, I'm going to say it is a very pretty film. It is a very wonderfully shot, composed film. The story is a little bit everywhere. It is based off of a manga of the same name that had an anime adaptation in 2008. And then this live-action version came out, and then a new anime adaptation by Amazon, or at least released by Amazon, came out in 2020. I have not watched any of the anime, haven't read the manga. Again, I grabbed this movie literally on a whim and was very surprised to see that it had an anime, or that it was based off of anything. It is a really neat concept. So the first, I'm going to say 5 minutes of the film are really fantastic. It's filmed in black and white, or at least, it's made to look black and white for this first bit of the film. The plot revolves around, at least the beginning of the film, introduces you to the main character Manji, where he is running away because he has a bounty on his head for slaughtering his, as the subtitles said, supervisor or superior. And one of the people that he killed was his sister's husband. And then he kind of grabbed her, ran, and has been running from bounty hunters and whatnot ever since. He comes across this old woman and asks him, why is he still fighting? And he pretty much says, for her, because I killed her husband on accident, who I guess is his sister. It has a bit of trouble explaining a lot of things, properly. Is this person actually his sister or not? Is it a woman that he feels bad for because he killed her husband? But what I was able to piece together is that, yes, it is actually his sister. He killed her husband. She went mad, which kind of manifested in her kind of regressing to a younger version of herself, I guess. But they come afoul of a group of bounty hunters who are seeking the very high bounty on his head. His sister, being kind of not all there, kind of wanders into them, gets caught, and he tries to get them to let her go, and as they do, they kill her. He then goes on a murderous rampage, killing all of these people. And it's a beautifully shot scene, very cool. Watching it, all I could think of was watching this, it's kind of how it feels to play Ghost of Tsushima at times. Because he's doing all the things. He's doing the blocks and everything. It's a very flowy scene. Very cool to watch. and there's a lot of extras and whatnot in there. It's a nice big thing. Then during the battle, he gets absolutely fucked up. While fighting, he loses his arm. He gets shot by an arrow that disappears at some point. You don't see him take it out. It just kind of vanishes. And then he just kind of pushes through. He kills everyone there, gets to the final guy where they kind of kill each other. But as Manju's dying, the old woman that came up to him earlier reappears, and he asks her to kill him because, he's suffering and doesn't want to suffer much longer. And she's just kind of like, nah. And kind of takes the knife, cuts a little slit into him, and puts what's called in the story bloodworms in him, which starts to kind of stitch him back together. It stitches his hand back together, making him effectively immortal. I guess not even effectively, literally, he's immortal now. Because after that, which it's a really cool scene, because as the bloodworms are going into him, it goes from black and white to color, which I find was a really nice transition. But from there, we kind of smash cut to 50 years later, and we're following a girl who looks very much like Manju's sister, because she's played by the same actress, which I think was a nice touch. Keep things simple. And she's training with her father and other people at this dojo, getting told off by her mother, being like, oh, I wish you would take more of an interest in, feminine things. And she's like, I don't want to. And then it cuts to them eating dinner, and she's like, I wish you would eat more ladylike. And she's like, I'm going as slow as I can. And she's just wolfing down like rice and stuff. But then there's a sudden like noise in their house, and her father takes up his sword to go see what it is. And it's these a group of people who are trying to, their motivation supposedly is to combine the schools, all of the like dojos around, into one big massive school to take over, I guess. To according to the guy, it's just his motivation is kind of half-assed, it feels. Basically, his great-grandfather got slandered, and thus now he needs to combine all the schools, kill off anyone that refuses, and then just kind of take over. So from there, the father challenges him to a duel instead of, seating, gets absolutely rocked, and his daughter's kind of ushered away to hide the horrible things happening to her mother, because her mother is brutally raped and then kidnapped. But she's, rushed off to a corner to hide her away so she doesn't have to see that by one kind of creepy dude. Then some time seems to pass, I'm guessing, and then the old lady comes up to her and says, find this guy who can't die and hire him as your bodyguard, because you can't do this. And as evidenced by the rest of the film, no, she would not have been able to do that. She would have died immediately. But I don't know how long it's been since her father died, but she's supposedly been training in the graveyard, so there was enough time to bury him and everything. How long it took, I don't know. But she goes on this little adventure, finds Manju, asks him for help. At first he refuses, but then he accepts, stating that, maybe I'll find someone to practice while I take you home. But then it like smash cuts to them pretty much performing like a weird ass sting operation for some reason. Again, I don't know how much time passed, because she's like covered in a shawl and she's like talking to this guy, the weird guy that spirited her away from the assault of her mother. And supposedly he's been sending her love letters and whatnot, because from that moment he fell in love with her, etc. And the way he shows his love is by killing them, I guess. I don't know. And he gives her a lock of her mother's hair and shows that he killed her mother, because he has on his shoulders these like weird mounds, and he reveals that it's his mother, her mother's head in one of them, which is weird. And the thing is, so he is pretty much in like that traditional kind of samurai mask with like the mustache and everything. And all you can really see is his eyes. And his eyes are super burned for some reason. It's not explained. And he takes off his mask to reveal that only his eyes are burned. So I was like, oh, okay. Because I was expecting like, oh, his whole like face and head are burned or something. No, it's just his eyes. I was very surprised by that. But she pulls off this really fucking weird move where she, like, takes these knives in between each finger, draws her arms back, like, really far, and then flings them forward, and then, like, holds that pose. And it is a terrible move. It is a god-awful move that she never perfects at all. And it's her go-to move. She will drop whatever weapon she has at the time and go to do that. And she fucking fails every single time. Because the problem is, it's like worse than a shotgun. Like, worse than a shotgun from across the room, pretty much. Because the spread on it is so ridiculous that only like one might get near the person she's throwing it at. And it's easily blocked by everyone she attempts it with. It's so silly. And there's even like a little scene later on where she's like practicing and she gets super excited because she hit it. And it's like, ah, cool. But then when it comes up later, she still fucking fails. Like, she throws it and like it moves a bit too fast for me to notice whether or not like it hit anyone else. But she hits Manju in the fucking back at the end of the film. I don't know. But anywho, so she tries that, fails. And then Manju comes in and fights him and shows that he is immortal because he gets like stabbed through. That's another thing that's a bit odd. Manju did really, really good in the beginning fight of the film. But every subsequent fight, it's like they had to show off the fact that he's immortal because he gets his shit rocked every single time. Like, there's almost not a fight where he doesn't get absolutely destroyed and then have to, like, you know, heal up and continue fighting. But with that taken care of, they just kind of move on. She takes his weapons, which are another thing that completely boggles my mind and is never explained. But she takes his various weapons to a sharpener to have the weapon sharpened. He says, yeah, that's fine. It's like 2 ruin or ryun, something like that. And you'll have to give me 3 days to sharpen them. And she's like, okay, cool. But then she notices her father's sword, which was taken by a guy with like super spiky hair at some point. And he comes back and claims it. She rushes off. I'm guessing the same day. She's like carrying the weapons. So either she decided to not have them sharpened, or she decided to wait 3 days, ran down to get him, and then sent him off to go fight the spiky-haired guy. The spiky-haired guy is giving his backstory and everything while fighting him. Again, rocks his shit, because he's also going like through like rule 1, block. Blocking is 8% of the battle. Rule 2, know your environment and whatnot. And then he ends up just getting killed because, of course, he does. Except for he actually kind of doesn't. He gets stabbed and then Manju just fucking leaves. He heals up and then leaves. Then the guy reappears later to, so that he can inform the bad guy that there's actually a guy coming after him. And I guess he either dies off screen or is still laid up until, I'm guessing, he ends up getting killed later on. I don't know. He pretty much exits the movie after he tells the bad guy that Manju exists. Then because this would work very well as an episodic thing, which I think is why the anime might be a bit better. Because you might get a bit more time with each of these villains, and it would be a nice little villain of the week deal. Because literally, it's just him coming up across different agents of this school, and then fighting them to the death. The next person he comes across is a monk. The monk comes up and is pretty much saying, "Hey, we should team up. We could both take him down. I can't take him down on my own, but we could do it together." Even though he's actually supposedly part of the school, but also wants to take it down for some reason. I don't know. But he denies his offer. They get into a scuffle. Manju skewers him, but then he gets up, and it turns out that he also has the blood worms in him. And it turns out that he has a poison that can weaken the blood worms. And for some reason, when you weaken the blood worms, supposedly, all of your old wounds from before you got the blood worms just reopen. So, like, since he was fatally bleeding and whatnot, and, like, his arm was, like, cut off and everything, once the blood worms were weakened, all of the wounds on his chest and his face, and I guess his arm, reopen and, just start gushing blood. But yeah, so supposedly the poison weakens them, but in enough of a quantity, it can actually kill a person. Which this guy then kidnaps Rin, and because Rin is not the smartest character, sadly, she constantly just runs into trouble on purpose. Like she'll be standing off to the side while a battle's happening, and then it'll cut to her, and then it's like there's a couple of beats where she's like processing, and then she goes, ah, and then like rushes in for no reason. Like he doesn't need your help. He doesn't want your help. He's immortal. And that's something that takes a lot of the stakes away, is that he's immortal. And the poison literally comes up only once in the film. Ever. And it's when he gets hit by the sword, which was coated in a poison, and then the guy, when he goes to the actual like duel to the death, he coats it in a poison and says, oh, I found it while traveling through Tibet. It weakens the bloodworms, but in enough of quantity, it can kill us. Then Manju just shreds him, kills him with his own sword, the poison sword, so that he would then die. When asked why he didn't dodge, what he definitely could have, he says, I'm just tired, man. I want to die. Which then completely destroys his arc as being completely pointless. He wanted to die. He had the poison. He could have killed himself if he wanted to. Supposedly he had lived 200 years, had 5 wives, and many more friends than that. And he was just tired. But I guess he also wanted to do a plot to destroy the school that he had joined as an instructor for some reason, but then decided, fuck it, I'll just go ahead and die in this battle anyway. It boggles the mind. But the poison then exits stage right and is never seen again. Because, for some reason, it would have been an interesting plot point, and I actually think that the other immortal guy would have been a good actual final boss. But instead they decide to play who's the actual final villain for the rest of the film. Because they come across, I think next, a person that had been pretending. Well, so actually he comes across a Mako? Or is it geisha? I think it's a geisha. She is in love with the main villain, and he sends her out to get him because supposedly he has killed 13 of the guy's best men now, and that's kind of too much. And she absolutely wrecks Manju completely. Like he doesn't get a hit on her at all. And she just completely destroys him. And this is when he's in his kind of weakened state after the poison, because he's still not fully healing up all the way, and it's kind of questionable, and it's getting weird. But afterwards, he he's, laying there just kind of listening to her, because she feels really bad about it. She doesn't like being a sword fighter, but she's needed. But she feels bad about it. Like, she gets into a bit of a trance when she's fighting, but then she sees what she's done and she, gets super depressed. And he's like, okay. But then Rin comes in and he's like, no, don't hurt him. And she's like, I'm not gonna kill a girl. And then she says, fuck it, and then leaves. She just leaves. She goes back to the main bad guy, says, sorry I couldn't kill him, I'm not good enough for you, and then leaves a lock of her hair and then just disappears for most of the rest of the movie. So she is fine for now. He chastises her, saying, I would have been fine. You didn't have to do that. I was gonna rally, and I was just trying to catch her off guard, and I was gonna attack again, even though I was missing an arm and things weren't going great. But seems to be healing fine again. They take a bit of a break. He tells her to go practice by herself, and that he needs to go do something. He goes to his sister's grave, which is just a small little pile of rocks, and he says, I'll be seeing you soon. Or not. And I feel like we were supposed to see something there, like, oh, the worms are working again and he's healed or whatever. But he just says, or not. And I guess he's fine now. Because the poison, again, is never mentioned at all. So he's fine. Meanwhile, she is going back to her father's grave, I think, to train. But she comes across the main bad guy just chilling there, also training. And she starts trying to sneak up on him. And then says, fuck it. And then runs out, yelling his name, getting his attention. And then she pretty much just keeps saying, oh, she does her stupid wing flingy move. Fails again, because again it scatters and only one was going towards him, and he just blocks it away. He goes into his backstory at this point, kind of explaining why he killed her father, even though technically his original excuse was enough. But his main excuse is that her great grandfather or great great grandfather or whatever pretty much screwed over her great-grandfather screwed over his great-grandfather, technically, because her great-grandfather and his great-grandfather were competing for a license to teach, I guess. And when bandits attacked, her grandfather, or great-grandfather, and his great-grandfather kind of had a bit of a mini competition. Her great-grandfather killed 4 and his killed 9. And so his great-grandfather felt that he deserved the license. But her great-great-grandfather said no, because you used a foreign weapon, and we don't do that. And it's this weird club axe thing that they call it an axe, but it does not look like an axe. But that could just be, cultural. Because, of course, when I imagine an axe, I imagine, a big metal head or stone head or something on a stick. Where this thing's, fully cast is pretty much a sword. But I think, actually, I did see that, old-timey axes are, exaggerated sickles, kind of. So, yeah. Anyway, that aside. So that's the explanation. That's why he had to kill her father, is because after that he was thrown out of the school, and just kind of got sad and had, according to him, a miserable end. Which is okay, so your motivation for starting this school is to try to balance out the training styles, I guess, to where like, it's equal. You can use whatever you want to kill however you want, kind of thing, and whatnot. And he's trying to teach the shogunate this somehow. But the shogunate's not going to have it, of course, which is something that Manju comes to a realization when the next bit happens. So they come across this group of a guy who's pretty much using his name, using Manju's name, like I guess his like pseudonym, his pseudonym, of the 100 Killer. I don't know why he's called the 100 Killer, but he's called the 100 Killer. And this guy's using his name to kind of strike fear, to minimize the radar of this group, because they'll think that there's only one guy coming after them instead of multiple. And they kind of decide to semi-team up because they have a spy on the inside that told them that he's going to be trying to go up the mountain because he's been given an invite. The main bad guy has been led to believe that the shogunate is going to accept him as a teacher, like as the one school to teach, the shogunate. And a school up a mountain has agreed to forfeit, just cede their power and let him take over and join this school. So he is planning a trip up, but there is a bit of a worry that he'll get ambushed. And the spy tells them that he is going to travel there in drag. So they notice someone carrying a suspiciously axe-shaped wrapping, and they attack her. But Manju notices that it's a bit too easy. So this impersonator runs up and tries to attack her. Fails. Well, he attacks her, but it's just a normal woman, not the main bad guy. And then they're ambushed by 3 people, in which then it is shown that there's a bounty on their head, on this group's head, showing that these people are actually bounty hunters after the main bad guy's group because money. But it's also later explained that the reason that they're doing it is because they're being forced to. They don't actually want to. It's just that while, yes, they get a nice cash bonus, they also have life sentences that will supposedly be waived if they assist. Which is how Manju comes to the realization that, the shogunate's not going to let them just take over. So they're going to take care of it, and she'll just have to go without revenge. Sucks to be her, kind of thing. But afterwards, after they defeat the 3 people from the group, one of the main bounty hunter that was impersonating him, starts going a bit too far. He starts trying to attack the woman. He pins her hands to the ground using a knife and begins trying to sexually assault her. But Rin says no, and very, very flaccidly tries to attack him. She gets the shit beat out of her until finally Manji. Damn it. When finally he comes in and stops it. I think I've been saying Manju this entire time, which is, I think, a candy. I'm tired, okay? I'm tired and I have a mild headache. Waking up at 9 has been taking its toll on me. It's now 7:37. Anyway. But he cuts off the guy's arm and he runs off. But yeah, so the main bad guy gets to the mountaintop area and comes to the realization, like, he goes in for the meeting and says, thank you for, offering to just, step aside and whatnot. I gladly accept your offer. And then the guy just says, nah, you can go ahead and forget that. And for some reason, the guy leaves. Like, the main bad guy leaves, goes outside, gets ambushed by a bunch of samurai. And in a sequence where he's fighting the samurai, the guy that just said, forget about the offer, then kills himself for some reason. I'm guessing because he now knows that he's condemning a ton of samurai to death or something. I don't know. Like, it's completely unexplained as to why he kills himself, but he does. So after he gets ambushed, he absolutely starts going to town on these samurai, runs down the hill, runs into Rin, who at this point has left a letter for Manji saying, I don't want you to die, so, don't worry about it. I'll deal with it myself. I know I'm not strong enough, but I don't want you to die. I guess forgetting that he's fucking immortal. Like, I don't know. Like, I guess in the middle of the movie, there was a bit of a worry because of the fact of that poison, and it was taking a long time for the bloodworms to, actually do anything. So he was healing a lot slower. But the tension isn't exactly built because, he goes into these fights and then he kind of comes out on the other side fine. Even though he gets, again, his shit rocked every single time. Then she runs into the main bad guy, wants to fight him, but he's like, you should run because you don't want to get associated with this. We've been marked as outlaws, like my group. So, whoops, and then a bunch of samurai start charging down the hill, and I guess up the hill. So she starts running with him, like chasing him down and whatnot. And this entire time, Manji's chasing, trying to hunt her down, running nonstop through the rain and whatnot, drinking puddles, when he can. And he comes across them. So Rin and the main bad guy get surrounded by samurai. The samurai are getting ready to kill the main bad guy for her. But she stops them, saying, that's not right. It's just one guy. To which I say, this one guy has killed like 50 samurai already. Like, he's taken over most of the schools in the area. Yeah, he's one guy, but at the same time, come on. I forgot to mention, the samurai that had told the main bad guy that, the shogunate would take him on as the main teacher and whatnot. He is actually running this, I guess, sting operation, part 2. And he poisoned the rest of the group. So the rest of the group is dead, except for like 3 people that ambush Rin on the road while he's trying to catch up to her. But he's leading the operation, and again, Manji gets ambushed by three guys, and for some reason it seems like his healing's not working. Like, he gets tore up a bit, one of his arms cut off, and for some reason it's not working. It's not explained why they stop working at this moment, when it's been working pretty well up until this moment, even after the poisoning. Like, it's still been working pretty fine. Because again, he gets diced up by that woman, and he's able to put his arm back on and everything. It's taking a bit of time, but it is working. but it's for some reason not working. And then the old woman says, "Why are you struggling?" and whatnot. If you do nothing now, you'll be free. So I guess she just has the power to turn off the worms, I guess? Or something? I don't know. But, so, like, since he keeps struggling, the worms start working. And he's able to put himself back together. Though there is a funny scene where he has to, like, retrieve his arm from a tree up on a hill, which is, it's funny because he's doing it from the bottom of the hill with a chain and just like trying to get it around the trunk of a tree to pull it down. This is quite humorous. But anywho, back to the bad guy and Rin. They're surrounded. She yells at the samurai saying it's not fair for some reason. And this new guy who again, like I said, they do musical bad guys at the end here. So now the shogun, or not shogun, the samurai, working for the shogun, states, kill her, shut her up, and whatnot. And the guy goes to kill her, but gets, I guess, killed because you don't see him after this, and it shows that Manji is there. And he has, arrived to take care of this and help out. He walks his way over to her and pretty much says, "What the hell?" Like, he's there. He's like right behind you. They want to kill him. Why don't you let them kill him? And she pretty much says, because it's not fair. Like, not even in the, like, oh, I don't get to seek my justice. If they kill him, it's not fair kind of thing. It's because it's one guy kind of thing. And it's like, okay, but no. But no. He, like, technically she had a perfect opportunity to just fucking skewer the guy. Because when they get surrounded, she runs up and is like a foot behind him. And this entire time she's been trying to like chase him because I guess she wants like a fair fight between him and to either die, which is a bit hypocritical because one of the reasons that she states that she is leaving is because she hopes that one of the people could kill him. Or, sorry, he hopes that one of the people could kill him. And part of why she keeps confronting this guy is because she just wants to get it over with. She wants him to kill her. Because she knows that she's not strong enough. So she's going into the battle knowing that she's not strong enough, so she just wants to get it over with, fail, and die. But at the same time, she's not taking any opportunity to get her revenge. Yeah. But a big old fight breaks out after this confrontation because he asks her, then who do you want me to kill? Like, do you want me to kill him or do you want me to kill them? And her reply is, kill whoever tries to hurt me. And he says, okay, at least it's an answer. I'll do that. So whether it be the government or this, school of people, I'll kill whoever tries to hurt you. And so a big old fight breaks out. They're cutting their way through the samurai. The bad guy's cutting his way through the samurai. It's just a big old set piece and whatnot. She's like there. She has a sword out, but she doesn't kill a single person the entire fight, which is a little bit ridiculous. Oh, there is a cool thing that Manji does with his swords. Is he takes one of his swords, like pulls off the handle, and then sticks it on the bottom of his other sword. And it becomes a double-bladed katana, and it looks really fucking cool, even though it would be very impractical. But it's so cool. When that breaks, I guess it's time to address the weird weapons in the room. He collects the weapons from the people he defeats. So, at least that's what it's implied, because he ends up collecting like new swords and whatnot throughout the time, and it's usually the people who he's defeated and killed. But he's just like magically storing them in his robes, and it's never explained. Like during the fight with the head shoulder guy, the head and shoulders guy, he like flumps his arms down, and just a fuck ton of weapons just stick into the ground, and then he grabs like one. Or he'll just like pull out of nowhere a new weapon and then just be like re-equipped with a different weapon. It's confusing, and it's absolutely never explained once at all. It just happens. Like, he has an endless inventory of weapons, and it's never explained. It's so annoying. Like, they could have just been like, oh, it's a magic robe or something. But they don't. They don't do that. They're just like, it happens. Like, even final boss, like 2 or 3, comes in and says, like, you know, drop your weapons. And he drops his swords, and he's like, all of them. And he flumps down, you know, his weapons, and then it starts like individually dropping them. But I have a feeling that they magically return because, like, he then has his weapons back again, I think. It's so confusing. But anywho, after they are able to kind of thin out the samurai, the impersonator guy comes back with a new hairstyle and missing arm, kidnaps the girl, and runs off. So Manji has to fight his way through, and you know, kill a bunch of people to get to this guy. He confronts him. Is in pretty much the same situation as with the bounty hunters from the beginning of the film, and literally the same situation almost plays out, because it's drop the weapons and then I'll release the girl kind of thing, and then he drops the weapons and he's like, well, now I'm going to kill the girl. But he kept one of Rin's things when she fucking threw it into his back. Like I said earlier, that's when she does it. She does the stupid thing again, and just like, he even turns around and says, you still haven't mastered that. It's ridiculous. So he pulls it out of his back, tucks it in his belt, and goes, and it comes back very shortly after. He throws it, misses the guy, but sets her free. So when he goes to, you know, swipe and kill her, she's already gone. Then he challenges the guy to a fight without any weapons, and he's like, I can beat you without any weapons, and he's just like bear hugging him at that point, throws him down a cliff, and then there's a very visible splat, so he's not coming back. Like, he even says, as he's dangling there, he's like, get it over with, like, I'll just climb back up eventually and I will get my revenge, kind of thing. But Manji cuts the vine he's holding on to, and you see him go down the waterfall, and there's a big splat as he's tumbling down the cliff. So I'm pretty sure he's gone. The samurai that led the sting operation, he dies in a duel with the main bad guy, the one that killed Rin's father. He dies there in a nice, cool, dramatic way. After the geisha lady comes back and like assists with the rest of the samurai, but she gets gunned down by a surprise gun attack. An ambush of gun people. She gets shot, but kills all of the gunners and then dies. Clearing the stage for a one-on-one duel between samurai guy and wannabe teacher. Which wannabe teacher wins, but is drastically wounded. And while he's just kind of chilling there after his battle, he turns over to see Manji and Rin just like collecting his weapons. He's just there collecting weapons. And then there's a question of like, what's going to happen now? The bad guy says, "I'll leave. I'm just gonna leave." And Manji's like, "Said like a true villain," and then is pretty much like, "I'm not gonna watch you leave again," even though you don't really. He never really saw him leave. Like this is like their first time meeting properly, and and then the bad guy's like, "Okay, yeah, I need to kill you now, or else it'll be a problem later," kind of thing. And Manji's like, "Yeah, pretty much." So they fight. It's a long drawn out battle, pretty cool. There's a fun bit where they're like slipping on blood because they're in the middle of an absolutely thrashed battlefield. Really cool scene. But it's a tiring fight. They thrash it out and whatnot, and he gets the bad guy into a point where like he could easily kill him, but he decides to defer to Rin. Let her have the last blow. Let her get her revenge. Let her end this. So he holds out his weapon, and she comes and takes it, and is standing there for like a solid minute contemplating. And the guy, realizing that he's not dead yet, lifts his head and starts saying, "It might not be tomorrow, or maybe in 10 years, or whatnot. It might not even be me. It might be my children, or my grandchildren when I am dead, who come back and, pretty much see his dream come true of like uniting all the schools and I guess equalizing the sword style." Again, his motivations are really confused, and he's not the best final villain. But he then gets up and starts hobbling away. To which then Rin realizes, "Oh right, shit, I should have killed him," and she starts chasing him down. And he goes to attack her with his axe, but Manji jumps in front of it and catches it in the side. And then Manji says, "Oh, I can't die before her," because his whole thing, I guess, has now become protecting her until she dies or something, because he's immortal again. Then she finally realizes, "Oh yeah," and then stabs him. Like she like cries out Manji's name, is like, "Oh, oh, so sad," and then realizes, "Oh right, I need to stab this guy." Stabs him. He dies. And then Manji falls over as if he's gonna die. And she's crying over him and whatnot. But then he corrects her thing, calling back to earlier in the movie, and opens his eyes. Credits. Not bad. Now, it took me, as according to my thing, it'll probably be different after I edit it a bit, especially since I'm making a bunch of fucking background noise. It's taken me about 53 minutes to recount a good chunk of the movie and whatnot. And that's the movie is 2.5 hours long. It drags on. Like, I paused it halfway through and was like, fuck, there's still an hour and 20 minutes left in this film. Why me? Like, it's so long. And you feel it. Like, some movies are really long, and you're like, okay, I can vibe with it, and it doesn't feel that long. This feels that long because it's jumping between so many like scenes and villains, like, and enemies and whatnot that he has to go up against. It feels like it should have ended like halfway through. Especially since, again, the better villain is the other guy that's an immortal, because it's the only other guy you come across the entire film who's immortal, except for the old lady who made Manji immortal. So it's just a big old question of like, okay, cool. Like, this could have ended many times and been broken up into like a mini series or something. Like, it would have been probably a bit better. That's why I think it's very beneficial to just watch the anime. Supposedly, the 2008 anime is really good, but it's incomplete and stops at episode 13. And supposedly doesn't, actually wrap up the plot. The 2020 version looks pretty good too. And from the looks of it, it does go through the entire plot in one season, about 23 episodes, something like that. So it goes through pretty much everything that this movie does, but in bite-sized chunks. So I might rewatch it or watch the anime and see how better it is in bite-sized chunks, because this is a lot. The actors are good. My least favorite character is Rin, because she just does the dumbest shit. Every single time. Every time there's an opportunity for her to have developed as a character, she fails. Every time. Even in the maybe she'll actually use her sword this time. Nope, she does the stupid fucking fling thing and ends up stabbing Manji in the back. Fantastic. It just hurts my soul. It hurts my soul every single time she has a chance of character development and fails it. She keeps forgetting that the dude's immortal. He has shown time and time again that he is immortal. There's even a conversation after she was kidnapped by the other immortal guy. She's like, oh, it would be better if I was like you. Because the immortal guy gives her a pseudo chance to become like them, to become immortal. And he says, he cuts her tongue and then cuts his hand and then presents his hand and says, lick it. Because if you lick it, the worms will migrate and you'll become immortal. And she goes to lick it, and he says, yeah, that's not how it works. Because if it was, I would have done that for so many other loved ones by now. You should have thought of it. Then he was about to just straight up kill her when Manji bursts through the door. But then later she says, it would be easier if I was like you. And he's like, I didn't choose this, And she's like, what? And I was just sitting there did he explain this earlier? That he didn't, he was forced into this. But he, I guess, explains it again and says, I had just defeated a bunch of bandits that killed my sister. They were after me because I had killed a bunch of people, a bunch of my superiors and whatnot. And then this old lady gave me bloodworms. And now I'm immortal. I don't like it, but I am. And that's where she kind of ends up coming to the conclusion that, oh, he's trying to get himself killed, kind of thing. Even though, he literally just killed the one person who could have killed him. That was his one out, and he didn't take it. Then the old lady gives him another out, and he doesn't take it. And, the bloodworms aren't explained exactly how they work. It gives a small chance of an explanation. A tiny chance of an explanation when the poison's introduced. They make you immortal, but there is a weakness. They can be killed. And you think that maybe the poison will come up again later. It doesn't. It's just mind-boggling, all these things that are introduced and then just left to dry. It's kind of annoying. Is it a good movie? Yes. I would say it's a pretty good samurai movie. It follows a lot of the samurai movie traditions of being a bit long and drawn out. That's kind of my review of samurai movies. I've watched Hidden Fortress, which that movie annoys me for a different reason. It's a bit drawn out and whatnot, but it's not bad. It's pretty interesting. He goes on some weird side quests for almost no reason, and then the Hidden Fortress is barely in the film. It's called Hidden Fortress. They go to a hidden fortress for 10 minutes, and then they never go back to it. They flee the hidden fortress. And, anyway, moving on. It's good. I liked it. I had to split it up technically into 2 viewing sessions, all on the same day. Of course, I watched the first half, and when I did the pause and realized, oh fuck, I still have an hour and 20 minutes, I paused it and moved on to watch a couple of other things, and then came back to it because I just no, It is a hard sit through at times. I definitely want to watch the anime to see if like the plot goes further and whatnot, just to see if there's anything more interesting going on. But again, it's acted pretty well. The character development could have, been a bit better. But yeah, I would say give it a watch. It's from 2017. It's kind of the first thing that pops up when you search Blade of the Immortal. So it's not hard to find. It is available on Amazon Prime, which is the ironic way that I watched it. I have the Blu-ray in front of me. I've had the Blu-ray for 4 years, but I decided, if it's on streaming, it'll be easier to watch. I don't have to change out discs. So I was like, I'll watch it on Amazon. And I did. So it's available there along with the 2020 anime. I would actually probably recommend just watching the 2020 anime, because looking at the thumbnails and whatnot, it's pretty much the same thing. Just, you can stop halfway through and not feel weird about it, because it's weird stopping a movie halfway through. Yeah, I think that'll do for Blade of the Immortal. Anyway, thank you guys so much for listening. I will talk to you guys later. Goodbye.